And we're live. All right. So we got something a little bit special for you guys tonight. We have Kyle Barnes here to chat with us for a little bit. Kyle is the competition director, I believe is your title, of
Correct.
Podium eSports.
Yep.
He runs race controls. For those of you who watch my Podium eSports races, you will see his name pop up with race control next to it on the driver chat. So, Kyle, thank you for joining us. Really appreciate you taking the time after the race. Um, that was fun, man. I always love running Gateway, home track, and I don't know what it is, if it's a psychological thing or whatever, but the two tracks that I consider my home tracks are Gateway and Irwindale because Irwindale was the closest one when I lived in Los Angeles, and those are far and away statistically my best tracks on iRacing. I don't know why, because it's not like I have any more laps on them than anything else. It's just for whatever reason I do well there.
I mean, sometimes it's just psychological like that. I mean, I've known drivers that don't race at their home track a lot, and then they show up, out of the blue one time in real life, and then they run really good. So I don't.
Hmm.
I mean, I don't know. I think it's kind of
There's
you're
not, but
defending your own turf.
so there's not even like home fans in the stands or anything like that. It's literally just a psychological thing. It's so
Yeah, it's just
funny.
mental.
Yeah. Well, also it's like those two tracks do suit my driving style so there's that. But yeah, my only two top tens in Podium Elite have been those two tracks so far this year.
Yeah, I mean, and funny enough, though, it's been a completely different type of race in both instances. Where as Irwindale was just an absolute disaster, and then tonight it's like a dream as far as how clean the racing was. So
That was
I know they're
fantastic.
two completely different styles of racetracks, but still, yet, I mean,
Gate
it's kind of crazy the comparison.
Gateway really does have that tendency to string out. Some of the part of it is I think just those tracks that really are kind of single groove. Everyone sort of recognizes that, sorts themselves out in line, and then once you start getting gaps with cars, we've got good drivers in this series, which we've always said. It's sort of what we wanted to talk about. I think, and we'll get into probably a range of different topics, but it's no secret that some of the races this year have been absolute, just crash fests and stuff like that. But it's not a result of necessarily from what I'm seeing from a driver's perspective. It's not bad driving. It's really, really aggressive driving. What I guess so. First question for you is how have you been seeing it from race control? Because obviously you haven't been satisfied with the season to date so far. Although tonight was a really good one. Um, you know,
Yeah, and I mean, here's the thing.
yeah.
I have never held back on saying that in the Elite Series, we've seen some of the most pitiful racing out of any series podium. And I mean, it's kind of like you can't hide this stuff, especially when you have so many streamers that are participating. And, we're putting on a stream, and Cisco and Pike and everybody over there does a fantastic job. I mean, there's no reason to say that we're doing a great job when obviously it's not. I think it's some of the blame falls on us because I think we tried to put forth a schedule that was maybe a little bit too ambitious, and tried to put you guys on tracks that maybe we shouldn't have, because when you look at the talent pool in the gold division, for example, I mean you got 5, 6 peak guys, you got a couple other pros, and then you have drivers that are over 4,000 I rating in there. Obviously, if you give everybody the same setup and you put them on a short track like Irwindale, crap's going to happen. That's just part of it. But at the same time, there was a lot of instances that, Myrtle Beach or Irwindale or Bristol to where it was just stupid driving. And I mean, you kind of got to call it like it is. For example, and I'm not going to name any names of drivers that I've had discussions with this year
Hmm.
because, I keep all that private. But I had a pretty big driver come to me about a month ago, and he said, listen, he said, I love what you guys are attempting to do here, but he said, the racing's crap. And I'm like, well, no crap, no shit. Like, we understand this, but there comes a point in time to where, as a competition director and, when it comes to the league side of things, we kind of got to put our hands up in the air and say, what else can we do?
Right.
Because I have stats for each and every race, and they'll never get out simply because of how, you know, we don't want to publicly shame anybody. But if you go back and look at the races, 9 times out of 10, there was never a person that caused 2 incidents in one race. It was
Mm-hmm.
always multiple guys. And
Yeah.
there was never somebody that went on a weekly tear of just, completely killing other guys. So it's kind of difficult. Well,
I might dispute that one. There have been
yeah,
a couple guys who but I don't think they're in the. I don't think those guys, for the most part, they've fallen out of the league. I don't know if all of it was penalties and stuff like that, but at least out of goal. I know that there was one last week that under the new protest system I protested, who is now not in gold division, who had been a repeat offender, and we don't have to go into name and names and stuff like that. But I guess so bridging off of that, talk a little bit about what you guys at Podium have done as a league to try to address that, to try to get drivers to clean things up.
well, when we first started out, and I'm sure a lot of your viewers will remember this, when we first started out, we had a rule pretty much that was the equal fault rule, to where if there was anything that was kind of a toss-up, we just threw it to equal fault and we just went with it. It wasn't a situation where we was going to sit there and try and super analyze this stuff. And then we also did the green, white, checkered finishes, and we also did the admin cautions and all that, which in our eyes, with the schedule that we created, would have been a good fit. Because especially when we go to places like the Bull Ring, Irwindale, Myrtle Beach, there's going to be times where guys get knocked sideways, and iRacing's go through a caution.
Right.
Well, we had a situation at Las Vegas where I threw a caution because I got somebody down on the apron sitting broadside, speeding back up into the racing circuit. So it's two different scenarios, but the caution still comes out for both. So we went with that for 3 weeks in Elite and 3 weeks in Trucks. And obviously the drivers were not so much revolting, but they want to change. So, I had taken a decision as the competition director because, after the Irwindale race, I had a lot of hate directed straight towards me. So I told the other managing members, I'm like, look, I said, because they had came to me and offered to kind of take it over anyways. And I said, well, look, if you guys want to do that, that's fine.
What was the hate specifically in regards to? Was it
some penalties that were handed out on restarts and on pit road that people just didn't think were fair, but yet
I remember that because that one, and I remember commenting on this, I think, as a driver, was that the Irwindale restart box, because the restart box at Irwindale ended up extending past where the green flag flew.
Well, it wasn't the restart box that was the issue. It was actually and I didn't get hate for the restart box. Obviously, the restart box was an oversight on our end, but it was actually the pace speed. And we ticked a driver that has a major following, and when we pinged him on the black flag, you would have thought that I killed somebody, legitimately killed somebody.
I remember him not being happy about that. Yeah.
You got to go back and look at the replay, and we had at the time a plus or minus 3 mile per hour pace. The reason we do this is so the front 3-4 rows can get settled in before they get to turn 3, and then all the other rows don't have a huge variance in speed. But when we got to turn 3, this driver, and I don't know why, I can't say whether he was doing wrong or right, went down 8 or 9 miles per hour.
Below
pace
speed.
As soon as he did that, 6, 7, 8, 9 rows back, everybody destroyed their front ends. So obviously at that point, I have the rule there. I have about 8 to 10 guys with destroyed front ends. We got to do something. So we pinged him, and again, like I said, you would have thought that we killed somebody, and a lot of the hate started there, and then it just festered as the race went on. And I mean, you was there, you heard, some of the comments towards me, and I got thick skin, and it wasn't a situation where I wanted to back out because of those comments, but it was a situation where there was so much toxicity pointed directly towards me.
And your race control, and it's always going to be directed at you because you're the guy in that position making the calls. And the thing that I've always made really clear when I talk about this stuff, because as I'll say stuff in the heat of the moment, and then I'll come back later and correct it or clarify. what I've said, but I've always been really clear on is that you have a job that no one else wants for the most part. Very few
No.
people actually want to do that, and a lot of the reason is like the exact way that I've phrased it on stream is I'm 34, coming up on 35 years old. I do this for fun. It is not fun for me to babysit other 35-year-old guys.
Yeah, and I mean, and the funny part is, I mean, we have age ranges from 14 all the way up to guys in their. I think there's one guy in the early 60s. So I mean, I deal with everything from a middle school, high schooler, all the way up to a grown man that wants to wring my neck. So I mean, and when we had those races at the beginning of the season, I mean, the hate mail post race in my private messenger box was ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
And ultimately, my partners knew how much of a toll it was taking on me, not so much mentally, but just, because I felt like I was the issue at that point, and the partners also felt like a change could be made to try and fix things. That, looking back on it, we probably should have just stayed the course and just, ultimately probably pissed some drivers off and just went with it.
Thanks for the sub, Jay Daka. We're not going to go into naming drivers tonight,
No,
Adam.
no.
And yeah, it was Irwindale. By the way, it looks like you've got a potential volunteer to help out with race control. If you're interested, I could put you in touch with Spitz the Greatest. He seems interested in the job, so.
Hey, and anybody, I've always
Dirtier,
told
thanks for the sub as well.
Or any viewer or anybody, if you want to come up into the race control booth with me and you want to sit there and you want to analyze everything that I'm analyzing and you want to try and look at the cameras, the exact cameras that I'm looking at, I'm more than willing to bring you up into that booth and let you sit there and just watch.
I've always thought that it would benefit you to have a second or a third pair of eyes in there.
Yeah. Because at the beginning of the season we did.
Right, but you're looking at tonight was a little bit of a lower participation night, but you still had 25 cars to try to keep track of.
Yeah, yeah, mm-hmm. And I mean the thing about tonight is okay.
I think the job's yours, Spitz.
Yeah, I mean,
if you want it, man.
Yeah, you could come in and hang out with me there, Spitz. But yeah, I mean, the thing about tonight is when I go into a race, broadcast has their cameras that they set up. I have my cameras that I set up. I'm setting up camera at a restart box. I'm setting up the cameras at the pit road. I'm setting up the cameras for the chase cam, the blimp cam, all these other cameras to where any time, we have an accident or we have a pit stop or we have something there, I can immediately go to it. And there's no waiting around. There's no trying to fumble around with the cameras. When you call something out, I'm there. Almost immediate.
Right, because I don't think people appreciate the time pressure you're under. Cautions feel like a really long time when you're sitting here in the car, but you have a very short amount of time to make sure that, you're watching for tires, and I imagine are you keeping track in the race of how many tires people take so that you can disqualify someone on the spot if they take too many? Or are you only checking that afterwards? But I know that's something you have to keep track of. You have to keep track of making sure that people are staying to the right on pit road. You got to make sure that they're not cutting through too many boxes, ghosting through too many cars. You may or may not have drivers who feel like iRacing gave them a black flag when they didn't deserve it, and you're going to have to go back and look at that. Meanwhile, while all this is going on live at the pit stops, you also have to check what actually happened to bring out the caution and determine what, if any, action needs to be taken on your end for that. And you only get 3-4 laps.
Yeah, and I mean, most times we gotta, I gotta be quicker than that because, while I'm looking at a replay, you guys are pitting.
Right.
So anytime there's an accident, I have to try and get done with that as quickly as I can so then I can go and check all 25 cars once they hit pit road. Mm-hmm. So it's not like one of those things to where, I do have 3 or 4 laps. Most times I have, right up until the pit stops are complete. And then as soon as the pit stops are complete, I got to be on that pit road looking at stuff. For our short track series on Wednesday night, and even for the truck series in a lot of instances, it's not as difficult. Because a lot of those wrecks in those series are pretty cut and dry. But when you go to the Elite Series, and you have guys racing as hard as they are, it's not as easy to make those calls. And it's not as easy to, be in a time crunch, which Um, I think given everything and all the circumstances and everything that we've had to deal with this season, I think that we've done a pretty awesome job in that regard of trying to keep things moving along. But at the same time, there's always room for improvement on that stuff.
Exactly. So let's see. We covered. Well, I guess real quick, what was because you and I have kind of always had disagreements on the equal fault rule. What's your rationale behind the equal fault rule that we started with at the beginning of the season, and why you like that rule in general?
Well, basically, just like we discussed, it kind of speeds things along. Like, let's say we have an accident between you and another driver out there, and it's close.
Mm-hmm.
It's a close call, but it was obvious that it wasn't just a racing deal. It was a fact that you two came together. Maybe you guys have been racing hard for a lap or two previous, and I had already been paying attention because most times I can tell you where a wreck's going to happen before it even occurs. Where I've been doing this for so long,
Mm-hmm.
um, and you two come together, it's not a situation where I have to say, well, he moved up half a lane and the other guy moved down a quarter lane, so the guy who moved up half a lane is going to get a penalty here. It's just a situation where we can say equal fault, move on. And that
Right.
was the whole, premise behind the rule. Issue was when we started handing out the equal fault rules, everybody thought that they weren't at fault. And that's where ultimately that rule fell on its face to where, in practice, it probably could have helped a lot of things. Um, but basically, what we've done now, with the recent update that we've made, is basically you guys can decide whether there's equal fault or not just by your discussions on track.
Mm-hmm. And I think so. For me as a driver, the reason why I didn't like the equal fault rule is I've always felt that if there's contact, first and foremost, it's the responsibility of the driver. As Michael Walter has always, I know I've heard him say this quote over and over and over again. It is your responsibility as a driver to control what happens with the front end of your car.
Yep.
So unless there's a clear case of either blocking or brake checking, generally speaking, whoever hits someone else with the front end of their car is at fault for contact with the front end of their car. Um, hey, Nim Cross has joined us. What's up, man? Uh, so he can probably speak to a lot of the headaches that you deal with as well, given his position as race control of all of iRacing.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
Speaking of jobs most people would think they want, but probably don't actually want to do.
yeah, yeah, and it's one of those situations to where, you know, again, I would bring it back to the point, especially in the Elite Series and the Gold Division here at Podium, we
Mm-hmm.
had so many talented guys that it was a lot of situations like that to where you would have somebody that's running, 15th or 16th blocking the man behind them on lap 20, and then they'd go down into the corner and they'd wreck.
Right.
So then, kind of tough to call those types of deals.
And I think
And
what I always kind of felt like it was, sort of sitting back and looking at it objectively as a driver is like you said, especially in the Gold Division and Podium, you've got a ton of guys who are super talented and they're super talented and very well practiced. They're really good racing drivers. A lot of these guys are used to in leagues and in official races running top five and competing for wins every single time they go out. So one of those guys who's used to running up front, all of a sudden he's running 20th. He hits the panic button, and they're also the other thing is that they're used to in those races. If they're sitting back in 20th, they're like, oh well, I missed on qualifying, but I'm just going to drive right through the field and get to the position that in my head that I'm supposed to be in, right? So they're not used to racing people from 5th to 20th with the same level of respect that they give to the guys that they in their head feel like they should be racing and competing with for the wins, right? So I feel like that was part of I felt like that was what was happening a lot in that mid-pack battle is that there was just a lot of I'm I'm supposed to be faster than this. I'm supposed to be higher in this position. I'm not showing anyone that's between me and the position where I'm supposed to be any respect. Um, because you know, I just felt like that was what it was. Is that what you saw from race control? Do you think that that's a fair assessment?
absolutely. And I was told that by two drivers who left the series that were running about 15th or 20th. is that they felt like they were entitled to better finishes, but the people around them prevented that from happening. Well, a
Mm-hmm.
lot of times it wasn't the people around them that prevented that from happening. It was themselves, because we have guys, and you know this as well as I do, that they take the setups whenever we release them and they practice, 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 practice,
Mm-hmm.
and 9 times out of 10 they qualify up towards the front. They stay out of the wreck. Well, we also had guys in gold division that were showing up and just ran the setup for 5-10 laps in practice, and then wondered why in the world they weren't doing any good in the race. And then
That I'm one of
they
those
felt like
guys.
they were more entitled. Well, I mean, and I'm
Yeah.
not saying that there's
Well,
anything,
I don't feel like I'm entitled, but
but
like I'll raise my hand and say like I wish I could practice more, and that's why I'm
mhm.
gonna end up here. I've just realized, and I learned my lesson last season, and I should have taken on less. I run 3 leagues. I do not have the time between working a full-time job, doing the other streaming stuff because I do like to still mix in some official racing and stuff like that with all that, and then I just don't have the time to practice and prepare for my league races when I'm running it's basically like running trucks, Xfinity, and Cup full time the whole season. I definitely bit off more than I could chew because I'm not
Yeah.
getting the practice time to compete in all the different leagues that I want to. I notice that it's like if I actually put commitment in, or on a night like tonight where it's just a track that I'm really well suited to and one of the ones that I feel like I've got in my bag of tricks that I can pull out and run well, I do a lot better. But I go to these other tracks and it really the lack of practice really shows. Whereas if I throughout the week, if I had 2 or 3 hours to commit to practicing, I would come in much better prepared, qualify up front, and yeah, the racing up front's a lot cleaner. It's not that it's any less hard. It's just that the cars up front tend to get separation, whereas the way that I always describe it is midfield is a knife fight. It doesn't matter what series you're running in. 10th to 20th is a straight up knife fight.
Well, and in my opinion, as far as the mid pack is concerned, and even further towards the back, is the reason it's such a knife fight is because you have guys that are practicing during the week and they
Mm-hmm.
qualify decent. They qualify 8th, 9th, 10th, right around in that area. And then you have guys that, like you said, are just showing up at practice, running a few laps, and they don't qualify good. But then once the green flag drops and they have an opportunity to run around the guys around them, learn a few things, they pick up speed and then they start making moves towards the front of where they probably should be running,
Right.
right? So then that's what causes all these jams in the mid pack, especially here at Podium, is because, we got guys that are working their tails off, they're getting a good qualifying lap, and then you got guys that are showing up late and learning as the race progresses, and that's
Mm-hmm.
what's causing all those issues around the mid pack.
Well,
If
the
we
other.
didn't, and well, one thing I would say, if we didn't release the setup until the night of the race,
Mm-hmm.
I think, in my opinion, I think that the field would string out in a more natural way versus what we see now.
I actually, personally, for me, again, as a guy that's got a limited amount of time, I would actually love a league like that. I would actually say, don't tell us the track or the setup until the night of the race. And I would even go further than that. I think it'd be really like give us a full hour of practice, maybe, or even more than that. But I think it'd be a really, for future just spitballing, a really fun league idea would be it is a random car, random track, and then throw the official set on it, but you don't find out what you're running until the night of the race. You
And I
show up
completely
on the
agree with you.
server,
And
and that would be a lot of fun because it really does show, what it does is it puts an emphasis on, okay, as a driver who's got a bag of tricks, how quickly can you figure out and learn what's going on with this? And it does put people on a little bit more equal footing.
yeah, but the caveat to that is we actually did that in the Cars Esport Tour for season 3.
Mm-hmm.
When we would go to short tracks, we released the schedule, but the setup was never released until practice. When practice began, that's when the setup was released, and it was always custom built setups in house. Nobody touched them that had any affiliation with any of the teams or drivers. So whenever we released them on that practice night, that's when they got them.
Right.
So it worked out well, like we're discussing, to where the guys up front, they kind of stringed along. The problem is the guys in the back who probably do need that extra practice, just to be able to run safe, competitive laps and not be in the way. So in my eyes, could we do that with the gold division? Absolutely. I think we could show up on a Thursday night, toss the setup to the gold division, and say, "Here's what you got. Here's what you're going to run." Do I think we could do that with the silver division without it being a complete crap show? No, not at all.
Well, silver division does have a much wider skill disparity because you do have, I think, 4 or 5 guys in silver division who I see who I honestly like. Some of them in
Yeah,
my head I think they're gold division drivers because they're showing up in gold every week.
yeah.
Um, who legitimately are good enough, to come and compete in gold. Uh, but the other thing that do want to point out for me as a driver's perspective is in gold division what you've got 30 guys who all are capable of running top 5, top 10. You've got 30 guys fighting, which honestly, if it works out right like it does tonight, I think puts on a really good show. And I mean, honestly, from the fans' perspective, the stuff that it's you guys have probably been getting really good TV style broadcasts out of this. It's just frustrating for the streamers when we get, particularly for us who have a stream going, when we get caught up in a wreck and we just got 100 laps of dead airtime from our
Oh, trust
perspective.
me, I know.
Yeah.
I got a bank full of clips of, rage quitting and everything else. And I mean, I get that. Like, I'm a driver in real life. I run short tracks,
You gotta
on
cut.
pretty much
You gotta.
weekly or
What you need to
bi-weekly
do with
basis,
those
so I understand this.
is you need to take those clips and you need to cut. You need to get someone to cut them together with the cut the streamer clip with
Yeah.
the TV broadcast the broadcast call of the wreck, and just do a cut. Wreck. Just do a clip video that's like 5 minutes in length. That thing will get a ton of hits on YouTube.
Probably so, but I don't know whether the streamers would want, the rage quits to be on there or not, because some of them
Have you not have you not seen Ozcast? That's all his videos are.
Well, I
we
understand that,
willingly
but
submit. We
yeah.
willingly. I got to tell you, and obviously probably want to go to each streamer and just get the okay on permission. But
Yeah.
to be perfectly honest with you, there is no such thing as bad press when you're a streamer. Any publicity is good publicity. So anything that's getting our name out there is going to help drive people to our channel and bring in more viewers. Yeah, we get. So we might get the odd troll who comes in because he saw us doing slamming our headphones down or throwing a glove against the wall, who didn't like that and wants to call us out for it. Everyone who's been doing this for any length of time knows how to deal with trolls. So we all have our own way of dealing with it. It's going to bring in way more viewers who are likely to become really good, productive members of the community than it's going to bring in those kind of guys. So I would be shocked if any of the streamers would not be with you on that. I know that I'm cool with it. So if you want to just do just do one of me, my rage clips cut with the TV broadcast stuff, that'd be awesome. I'd be all for
we'll
that.
We'll see if we can do something like that.
Just give me the video so that I can upload it through my channel and get credit for it on mine as well.
There you go. There you go. Yeah, I hear you. So to kind of get back on track. I mean,
yeah.
It's one of those situations to where we understand how people feel. I get it. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I've been in situations in real life to where I get something called on me that I don't think is fair, and sometimes you just gotta suck it up and go into the trailer and just come back next week. And that's part of it. And I think one thing from the driver's side that would really help improve is if instead of going off in the race or instead of going off on stream, it's just to come directly to us and chat with us. Myself, I stay on until probably at least midnight, normally till 1 a.m. in Discord, just in case anybody wants to chat with.
Totally.
I'm always available to chat, and I'm always here to listen to you. Like me and you've had conversations after you've went off stream through Messenger, and I think, we've had some messengers or some messages that went back and forth to 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning, just because, we need to get stuff off our chest. But
yeah,
it's
so again, the thing is like part of the appeal of doing the live stream with this kind of stuff is the same
Yep.
reason why, as a race fan, you want to listen into the team chatter. People like the authentic, in the heat of the moment reaction and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So
And I'm
that's
with you.
always going to be a part of it. Obviously, as a personal choice for my stream, I temper myself to a range just because as a coming up to be a 35-year-old guy, I don't personally feel like it's a good look for me or my style to have videos out on the internet of me throwing profanities and cussing people's names and stuff like that. Like that's not me. I have no judgment for people who want to do it that way. It's just
Yeah.
not the way that I do it.
No, I'm with you.
Throwing
I
my
agree with
gloves
that.
has kind of become like it's a good way to just be like, dang it, toss the glove at the wall, catch it. You vent a little bit and, and move
Yeah.
on. It's a good way to blow some steam without breaking anything that's expensive or setting a bad example for the kids. Which that's another thing that is important to me is that I understand that I've got kids watching my stream who are as young as 12 and possibly younger than that. It's not like their age is printed next to their name, so you never know how old someone watching you is. The
Yep.
the last thing I want, especially in this day and age, is for some 12-year-old kid to be watching me on their tablet and their mom walks by as I'm in the middle of an expletive-laden tirade.
Yeah.
Do not want, and even worse than that would be like, what if it's one of my, you know, 10-year-old cousins or something like that, and their, very religious conservative mother who's my
Yeah.
cousin who I've known my whole life walks by and sees me acting like that. I don't want that at all.
Yeah. No. I'm
You
right
know?
there with you. And I mean, it's kind of those situations where you got to look at your audience, and I
Mhm.
understand with certain streamers on Twitch and other areas, their audience loves that type of stuff. Their audience loves for them to cuss and talk bad about people and throw things and break things, and I
Yeah.
get that. That's all part of streaming. You got
Because
different personalities on stream,
Right, because
but
for a lot of guys, it's like that is their, escape from what they feel is an
exactly,
overly controlled PC culture where it's like, hey, this
yeah.
is where I can hang out with the guys and blow off some steam and vent.
Oh yeah, and absolutely. It's not something that we hate, and it's not something that we disdain or anything like that. We've seen clips to where people are cussing us out, and we laugh just as much as the next person. Because
Yeah, some of that stuff's funny.
don't take,
It is
we don't
gold.
take anything. We don't take anything personal.
Yeah.
As far as that stuff. But when stuff brings the mood of the race down, if that stuff is said in the servers, or if that stuff is taken, into the actual event, that's when, in our eyes, you cross the line, and that's when we have to step in on that side of things and
Sure.
handle those types of deals.
Yeah. So let's see. We've hit a range of topics. Let's go back real quick to specific actions. Getting rid of green, white checkers. Obvious. The reason to have them is obvious. They're
Yeah.
massive entertainment value, and they're fun for us drivers. Honestly, like we always, when a caution comes out late, every driver except the leader wants another shot at trying, because
Exactly.
in drivers, the way that we think, because we're not properly mentally balanced, is that we're only going to go forward.
Yep. Yeah. And I mean, here's the thing about green white checkers. We've done them in the short track series, and we continue to do those in the short track series. We do those in our street stocks and in our cars eSport tour.
Mm-hmm.
Massively successful. Every single time that we've had a green white checkered, with the exception of cars tour at Irwindale, there's not been any major wrecks. Now, has there been a small wreck at the back, or an incident between the leader and second place? Absolutely. There has been those types of green white checkers. The problem with trucks and cup is you guys simply cannot stay away from each other on a green white checkered,
Mm-mm.
and it's a byproduct of the package that we have from NASCAR. You look at Texas,
Definitely when the package changed, it made the restarts a whole lot crazier.
Oh, it screwed us. And the thing about it is when you have those green white checkered at somewhere like Texas, like Adam just brought up, and we wipe out 85% of the field, and the cars that do cross the line, with the exception of the top three, are completely destroyed. That's
Hmm.
embarrassing. And I don't feel embarrassed as, race control, because I'm not the one
You didn't
driving the
wreck your car,
cars.
yeah.
I didn't wreck the car, but in the grand scheme of things, that's embarrassing for the drivers. That's embarrassing for the broadcast crew, because now the broadcast crew is sitting there and they're having to explain why we just wadded up, 20 cars in one corner, and why it was necessary to do. And then you got
Hmm.
the drivers who were at the front of the field that are now, going to finish 25th or 30th, because they were the ones that essentially got ran over. So, when we looked at all that information when it came to the Elite Series, because this is the only series I think that take them away. I think that, yeah, the trucks still do have them,
Hmm.
but with the Elite Series, it just got to a point to where sometimes you just,
I,
you got to cut
and
off.
I think I told this to you privately as well. I
Yeah,
view stuff like green white checkers, having admin cautions, and having basically having more boys have at it type stuff, and looser rules, not having incident limits. Those are all privileges that we as drivers earn by demonstrating that we're capable of racing each other with respect when we don't have these extra restrictions on them. Our toys get
100%.
taken away when we show that we can't play with them responsibly. And I'm totally cool with that. And it was like I have been so adamantly against incident limits in iRacing and the official races, specifically on the oval side when it comes to tracks like Bristol and Martinsville, because I always felt like the incident limit was so high that a driver who had it in his head that he was just going to go in there and mess up the race for a bunch of people, he would mess up. He was capable of ruining the race pretty thoroughly before he would get DQ'd. What
Exactly.
I instead ended up seeing was that a lot of stuff that was just typical short track contact would end up getting people who were racing relatively clean into instant trouble, and possibly getting them knocked out of races when they had cars that were perfectly capable of finishing the top five and they hadn't done anything wrong. Having
Yeah,
done Podium now, I have flipped my opinion on that, because I have seen in this league as well as in the other league that I run, which is Dynasty, um, the effect that having the tempering effect that incident limits have when drivers actually care about where they finish.
yeah, and I'm right there with you on that. And to take us back a little bit, the whole reason that we came up with the instant points and the protest system, just like iRacing does, it's right off the it's a cut of the cloth of what iRacing does with the protest system. The whole reason we went to that was because after the 10th race on the season, I can't exactly remember where it was.
That was
Um,
That was Myrtle.
no,
That was the one
Myrtle
where I
Beach,
went.
yeah,
That was the one where I got rolled over on the back straight.
yeah. Well, after that race, and after what a disaster that was, and
That was pretty
hearing
bad.
some of the driver feedback that was pretty well pushed over to the negative side. Basically, what we did, and I kind of headed the whole deal, is we just put our hands up in the air and we said, "Here's what we're going to do. We're going to get the Gaming Council, which is a collection, for those of you that don't know, I think there's 12 or 15 guys on the Gaming Council, all drivers that run at Podium. Some influencers, some short track guys, some elite guys, some truck guys that we have in the background that works with us on different ideas and different situations. And then we went to about another 15 to 20 drivers that we feel are also influential, but not in the Gaming Council, that have a solid head on their shoulders, that show up and race with respect every single week. And we brought y'all into a meeting room that Friday, immediately following that Myrtle Beach race, and we basically had a come to Jesus meeting on what are we going to do to fix this? What do we have to do as a league to help you guys race better? Because ultimately, we had tried everything that we could on the competition rules side of things, other than just completely overhauling everything.
Hmm.
So that's basically what we did. Is we brought all you guys into a meeting, and we did two different meetings to accommodate time zones. I mean, we went all out on this, and we said, how can we improve this? And I would say everything that is now in the rule book and the new final draft that we have for the rest of the season came from you guys. Everything that we did was put up to a vote. A lot of the ideas that we had were refined by you all.
Hmm.
For one example, we did have an Arca break rule in place, and there was a vote on the Arca break rule staying in the rule book, and we basically voted it out, or the drivers basically voted it out and said, well, we'll just use the protest system for that.
Which I think makes a lot more sense. The arc
Exactly.
Because the thing is that when you have an instance of arc breaking like what happened to me at Milwaukee last week,
Yeah.
the guy who was guilty of it, his race was ruined anyway. Giving him a penalty in that race isn't going to affect him at all,
Yep.
especially since he's a silver division driver, so he's not even running for points. The
Exactly.
only thing that is meaningful as a discouraging factor is something that takes action for the next race or for future races.
Yeah. I got a question. Can you show Facebook videos on stream?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to send you a Facebook video, and you'll have to watch the audio because it's extremely loud. So viewers, you might want to watch your ears. But I'm going to send you a video of my first race of the season, which was at Hickory in a limited sportsman, or limited late model division. And I'll send it through Discord now. But this race, I screwed up qualifying, spun out in qualifying like a dippy. Had one of the fastest cars there, led both practices, went in qualifying, thought I was a superhero down in turn 1, spun the car out. So we started shotgun on the field. This incident that took place happened on lap number 1 of the event. I'm in the white and red 44 car. You'll see me at the back of the pack where I started.
This is you. I've got it up right now. I don't know if you can see on stream. Is this you?
I'm
all
not
the
actually
way
in the
back?
camera. I'm not in the camera pane. Actually, that car right there is the car that's going to arc or break me.
Okay.
So keep your eye on that car. But you'll see
just
red
the
roof
plain
and
white car.
Yeah,
is
the
the one
plain
that's
white
gonna
car
arc
you
or
see in the
break you,
very,
yeah.
very back. It's all the way back there, out of the way. I've dealt with this in real life. Arc breaking, this happens in real life. So
And I just want to
to
remind people that when this happens to Kyle in this car, it's not iRacing. He
No.
actually has to go back and spend his money in elbow grease to fix this thing.
This cost me $2,000. This incident right here cost me $2,000. But you'll see exactly what I mean when we talk about arc break. And I'm in the red and white car. I'm on the outside there, 44.
Okay, I see you. Yeah. You got a red hood and a red roof?
Yep. And I'll be coming around the outside, going down into turn 3 as well. And you'll see the incident. The video will actually pan towards the incident here.
Oh, man, he just didn't stop.
Had the wreck missed.
Yeah.
And he just destroyed the car. Now,
yep. You were
situations-
stopped, and he just kept bulldozing in there. That looks very familiar.
Exactly. So, I mean, when I have guys fussing at me about arc break and saying, well, why are you not penalizing for an arc break? Why are you not doing this about an arc break? Or you don't understand what it means to arc break. I'm like, what? Like I've actually been on the receiving end of incidents like this. I understand how aggravating, upsetting it can be, but at the same time, everything's a case by case basis, and we got to look at everything. What's the situation regarding, him not slowing up? Is it a situation to where he thought there was a gap, or was it a situation where if he didn't slow up, or if he did slow up, he was going to get caught up in somebody coming back across the track? So, I mean, there's a lot of factors involved.
Right, exactly.
This right here is just flat, just did not stop.
Right, there's no excuse. He's got no one behind him. And he has nothing to gain either because the caution's out. You're not going to be able to advance your spot. As soon as you see cars sideways in his position, you should be off the gas and on the brake. Because, again, he's got to fix that car too. It doesn't help him any to do it.
And one thing about that situation is, and one thing that's different from real life to sim racing, is in real life, I was extremely upset in the car. You can understand how upset I would be in a situation like that, to where I'm stopped on the racetrack, I've missed the accident, and a guy who's coming off of turn 4 when the accident happens plows over top of me, right? I was extremely upset. I wanted to chat post-race, not looking for a fight or anything like that, but
I wanted
to go in there and talk to him and see what happened. I go down to his trailer, I look at his setup. There's a certain thing that comes over me to where, like, it doesn't matter. Because if you would have looked at his setup with what he had down there and what he was trying to race with, you can't be mad at somebody that's just trying to go have fun. And there are situations on sim racing to where we have guys at the back of the pack who, are way off pace or sometimes in the way, and they have these same situations. But you know what? They're just out there to have fun.
They're learning.
They're not out there. They're learning. They're out there to have fun. And this same situation in real life, it just happened, less than a month ago. It kind of opened my eyes to where, like, and I'm not talking about your incident, but there's some times to where you just got to put your hands up in the air and you just got to say, it happened.
Oh,
It
totally.
happens, and it's part of it. Now, in the heat of the moment, you're probably upset, just like I was, but at the same time, you have to go back and look at what they have, in terms of skill or experience, and just go from there.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. It's just
Yeah.
it, it's kind of interesting. I mean,
So Speedy Jr. He does bring up a good point. It sounds like 99% of the issues could be solved if people use their heads. Now,
absolutely.
the response that I have to that is and this. So I've only done a couple times where I've actually done competitive racing in a real car. I've done a few autocross things, but I did two chump car events. Which for any of you guys out there, super fun. Would
Yep.
highly recommend it for anyone who it's just a fun. If you love cars and you love racing, it's just a fun weekend. But the guy who does race control over at Chump Car, he runs the drivers meeting every time. And every single time that I've seen it, at least, which again, it's only twice, but I imagine he probably does this every single time.
He
The
does.
one quote that sticks in my head is he tells him, he's like, guys, as soon as you put on a helmet, common sense is a superpower. And
Yep.
it's true. And the thing, like, it doesn't matter if that helmet is virtual or not. As soon as a race car driver gets themselves down in that seat, they're strapped in, they got the steering wheel hands. Having common sense in the heat of battle is a superhuman thing to be able to have. So it's
Yep.
absolutely true that if people could just use their heads, a lot of this stuff would be solved. The thing I had two situations tonight. I could have gotten probably a much better finish tonight. I had two situations. One was where I got passed by the 47. I got a run back on him, and I was going to try to go send it down into turn one and get past him. I hit the brakes, locked him up, slid sideways, got the thing gathered back up. Fortunately, I didn't wreck anyone, but it's like that was a situation where common sense would have said, don't do that at that time. It's the wrong
Yeah.
time to do it. But I'm sitting there like, I want to go race this guy and try to get that spot. The other one was where I got myself into the wall coming off at turn two. 6X's, two incidents. Both of them would have been avoided had I had a little bit of that common sense superpower.
No, I'm right there with you. And one thing that I will say too, and this isn't a knock at anybody who runs in trucks or anybody who runs in elite, but I wish that a lot of the guys who have the issues in elite or feel like they're being targeted or anything like that would come and participate in at least one short track series event. And I would cover the costs. And if you want to come run with us, you just pick the date to run with us for free. But to me, our short track series on Wednesday night compared to our elite series and our truck series are two completely different atmospheres. Now, I understand that it's two completely niches of racing and everything like that, but the thing that sets the Cars Esport Tour apart from any other division that we have here is it's a camaraderie. It's not like club racing, but if a man that's running 25th needs help, wants help, all he has to do is go to somebody who's winning races and ask for help. And a lot of times they don't even have to ask. The guys up front do an awesome job of just reaching out and trying to help if they see somebody struggling. I don't see that as much in the elite or truck series, and I think that contributes somewhat to some of the things that we see out there. Is it's everybody's trying to get that one single position and not thinking about the fellow competitors out there on the racetrack, which I understand. This is, you guys are out there to win the race and get the best finish you possibly can. But at the same time, if there was more helping and less fussing on our other series, it would definitely be a whole lot more improvement over here.
Mm-hmm. But I mean, elite gold. That's top prize right there. That's the one that everyone wants to get
Completely
wins
agree.
in. So the thing is that that's top prize for us, but we're racing at a level that is below K&N.
Hmm.
They're like we all think that we're top dogs when in fact we're still down here. So and we race like it, honestly. It's like we demonstrate, except for tonight, we demonstrate week in, week out why we're not Cup Series drivers, why we're not Xfinity Series drivers. Because you watch those guys, they go out there, and especially with the cars as they are now, they run caution free. Unless the cars break or the tires fail, they basically run caution free.
Well, I mean, that's one of the things too.
I expect that of us. I feel like most of the time I do it. I'm trying to think. I don't know if I've actually been the cause. I've maybe one caution the entire time in Podium so far.
Yeah.
So I hold myself to that standard, and I do wish that other guys would, but I understand it. It's like, there is that mentality of drivers are going for the win and the top prize come hell or high water, and they're not going to really waste too much time with anyone who's in their way between them and what they feel like is theirs.
Completely agree, and I 100% understand that. But at the same time...
And that's what the fans want to see. That makes good entertainment.
And it does, but at the same time, it also causes wreck.
Mm-hmm. And that's the thing is, you're riding the balance. Like I've always said, you're riding the balance between you want to put on an entertaining product for fans to come watch the TV broadcast, because the bigger viewership gets on that, the more drivers are going to want to compete. At the same time, though, for me as a driver, especially since you guys are head-to-head on both nights with NIS fixed, that's the baseline for what you have to beat. Forget the other leagues that you got to compete with as well. You at a bare minimum have to provide a more pleasant driving product than what's on the official iRacing schedule that you're competing head-to-head with.
Yeah, and
you have to balance both those things. And those interests are directly opposed.
Yeah.
Because what the drivers want is to go 200 laps, 500 miles, no cautions, completely clean, and play out their strategy. What the fans want to see is wrecks and drama and angry drivers.
But at a certain point, it becomes too much.
Right.
And that's what has happened this year. Is it's too much. I mean, from a driver or a fan standpoint.
Yeah, exactly. It's gone way too far. Yeah, they crossed the line. What you want is you want enough wrecks and enough drama that gives the broad, which you guys do have some fantastic broadcasters, by the way. Shout out to the guys that you have up in the booth. Do a fantastic job, but you want enough interesting storylines so that they can spin it and twist it and make and tell a good story, while at the same time, still having a league that is enjoyable for the drivers to race in and compete in. And at the end of the night, if they're sitting there at the end of the night wrecked, but they feel like they gave it their all, and it's one, they're wrecking 1 or 2 races out of 10, okay, you can swallow that. It's definitely been tough for a guy like me who's used to running pretty consistently. This season has been the sophomore slump of sophomore slumps.
Yeah, and I mean
and I'm not the only driver who feels that way. I'm sure.
No, and I mean it's crazy. It's absolutely crazy, though. I mean, and we talked about this a little bit through Messenger, right?
Mm-hmm.
Our Elite Series has just been straight garbage. We've already established that.
Yeah.
Our Truck Series has improved a lot. It's still not to where I want it to be, but it definitely is a good improvement from where we was at the beginning of the season.
I think both are getting there. I mean, tonight was really good.
Yeah, but I mean, if you look at our cars tour, and most guys don't believe me, I got to actually show them the stats. Mm-hmm. Every single race this season, we've had full fields. We've sent guys home, and we've also increased on our driver count. We get 3 to 4 registrations on the cars tour and the Street Stock Series every single week. So it's a situation where, like, for example, if you take the viewerships head to head, last night we had 50 to 60 viewers on the cars tour. Mm-hmm. Why? Because the guys were racing the piss out of each other, but they weren't wrecking each other. Whereas with the Elite Series, it's kind of gotten to a point to where we only have those drivers and a few family members that are watching, because the regular fans, the people who want to watch good racing, know that we're 13 races into the season and it's just now improving. Mm-hmm. So it's definitely an interesting conundrum that we found ourselves in. The 2 series that we thought that were going to be the bloodiest and the worst at Podium have actually turned out to be two of the best
Right.
in terms of race crash and just the popularity of them themselves. I mean,
Do you think that some of that is that because those are short track series, but you've actually got short track cars on there, where what we were trying to do with Elite was
no.
take uh, cars that are more speedway cars and put them on short tracks because we thought it would be, and it has been. It has definitely been a test of driving ability of really good drivers, but like you said at the top of the interview, it was maybe a little bit more optimistic as to how well
Too
these drivers
ambitious,
would be
yeah.
able. Yeah, it was a little bit too ambitious.
Yeah,
Um,
I don't completely buy that argument. And the reason why is because we took the late model stocks, the Cars Tour, to the Charlotte Legends Oval. We started 32 of them things at the Legends Oval, and they were lapping cars within 5 to 6 laps.
mhm,
Now we do admin cautions over there, but we still only had 6 incidents that brought out a caution. So we had a 250 lap race with two 25 lap heat races before that and a 25 lap LCQ. We sent 4 drivers home from the LCQ, and then
mhm,
we did the heat races. The heat races only had 1 caution each. The LCQ had none, and then we go into a 250 lap race and we have 6 cautions. Now we can argue: does a truck belong on a Legends Oval? And you would probably say no, and I would say it depends on the drivers. I
mhm.
think if we had, and this is not a knock at what we have right now, but if we had the same driver mentality that the Cars Tour has in the Elite Series and in the Truck Series, these races could be just as good. But the driver's mentality of, I got to be first. If I'm not first, then I suck. Is kind of the thing that brings the series down to whereas in the Cars Tour, there's a lot of guys over there that are just happy to finish top 15, top 20, but we just don't have that here. Everybody thinks they got to finish top 5, top 10, or it's bust. You know,
Right.
and that's to me the biggest difference. In driver attitude that really plays a role. I mean, we could take an Indy car, run it at Bristol and have a good race as long as everybody uses their head.
Of course. Yeah, but
You know,
we're all good enough. We're clearly capable of running
exactly.
250 laps without ever touching each other if that's what we're committed to.
So I don't think that car track combo argument is a good argument if we had the right drivers racing.
Mhm.
Um, and point blank, I mean, I've told multiple guys in the truck series because all I ever hear is, well, we're going to Legends Over. The Legends Over is going to be horrible. Well, if you're going in with that mindset, it's going to be horrible. The Cars Tour, when they went there and they knew they didn't belong on that track and they knew that we shouldn't be starting 32, they was like, hell yes, when's the green flag dropping? I'm going to be there. This is going to be one of the most fun races ever. But yet, in the truck series, we have, about 50% of the guys who are like, I'm not even going to show up. I don't want to be there, but I got to be there because points.
Mhm.
And it's like that. As soon as you have that type of attitude in 50% of the field, it's not going to be a good race. You guys are going to be running
And
over top
that
of each other because that's what you expect.
and that attitude builds over the season because
Exactly.
you've got experience of having bad races at several tracks at that point. If
Yeah.
it had been if you were having good fun races at those, then we'd be approaching it with the mentality of the Cars Tour. You know.
Yeah. And I mean, plus two, one of the things that sucks now is for the truck series, I somewhat believe that it may be a little bit of a caution fest when we go to the Legends Oval.
Mhm.
Just because of the new cautions that we have with the race control, where we went to race control on the truck series. The whole reason that we had admin cautions on the truck series was for these short tracks and type of incidents to where somebody just gets knocked a little bit sideways and it triggers a caution.
Mhm.
iRacing has to implement that type of coding just to keep the official side racing clear and safe. And they're not expecting,
And even
you
then,
know,
there are ones where like it
yeah,
clearly misses something that should be a caution. There are a couple spots on a couple tracks, but then there are other ones, and I don't know. I
yeah.
mean,
But I mean, it's kind of one of those arguments. And me and you kind of already had this,
mhm.
privately. It's an argument of where we can say that I've missed wrecks, and I admit to missing wreck. But at the same time, you can look back at Lucas Oil, and there was a 5-car accident at the very back of the field that wasn't called.
Mhm.
One restart later, it's a 2-car incident. They're at the very back of the field. It's called. So what's the difference in that coding? What's the difference in that type of
It's
incident? You know, I
no,
mean,
but
it's
the
just it's
thing
an
is,
anomaly.
the thing for me as a driver though is that why I like the iRacing cautions is that they're predictive. When I'm sitting there as a driver and I'm trying to make the discussion of do I hop completely off the gas because I can see that there's no way this isn't going to be a caution, or do I stay in it a little bit longer to play the guessing game? Because if I hop off too early and it ends up not being a caution, I lose 6 spots sometime.
Yeah.
Like that's the
No, and I'm
thing,
with you.
and that's what causes a lot of the ARCA breaking deals. Is that if it's not going to be if it's a gray area as to whether it's going to be a caution, guys are much more prone to stay in the throttle to try to exploit that to pick up spots. Because again, it's so competitive. It's so difficult to pass. We're all in the same equipment. Track position matters a ton. So anytime when you can pick up a handful of spots like that, it's very difficult. It's very tempting, and it's very difficult to resist that temptation
And I'm
as
with you.
drivers.
And I completely agree with you. But
So
there's
the
also to where
understanding that the rule is if a car gets 90 degrees sideways, perpendicular to the track in the racing line, it is definitely going to be a caution no
yeah,
matter what. It's
yeah,
very easy for us to, we can see far ahead and we've got our eyes trained to recognize when that kind of stuff is going to happen.
yeah. And I think one thing about the good thing about running admin cautions on a short track series, and even in the truck series when we go to those short tracks, which we don't do, but I think ultimately I still think that we should be doing. But you know, there's camera angles that we can set up that I can set up to where I can see the full track on my screen,
Mm-hmm.
and it's basically a blimp view of everything you look at. You can see the whole track. So if there's two incidents or if there's two packs racing hard, and I think that both the packs could be an issue, my eyes can bounce back and forth on them.
Mm-hmm.
Where the problem was with the admin cautions once we got to the super speedways and the mile and a half, we didn't have enough eyeballs to cover that full track, because if you go all the way out and blimp view and put the whole track in your monitor, you're not going to be able to see.
You're looking at
squat.
micro machines.
Exactly. You're looking at little ants running around an anthill.
Right.
But on the short tracks, it works because you're so on top of the action that you can watch two packs, one in turn 2, one in turn 4. You can kind of ping pong back and forth, and you can catch those types of incidents. And that's one of the things that I think has helped improve our short track stuff, and would probably help improve the truck series, especially because it's such a short track heavy series. Now, the one thing that I failed to do as a competition director when it came to discussing with you guys about those types of rules changes with the cautions is we should have been a little bit more firm, and all the partners agree with me on this. We should have been a little bit more firm when it came to sticking with admin cautions on the short tracks where we knew it was going to work, because we don't want a caution because the guy back in 25th place has single spun and then a lap truck that got caught up in an accident earlier is passing him, even though there's no reason for them to make contact. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's got its pros, it's got its cons. Could we miss a wreck? Could a caution come out late because it's a little bit of a human error and I'm late to get into the button? Absolutely. But it's kind of a give and take in that sense. Do you want cautions because guys are single spinning in the back of the pack, or do you want to try and run it straight up at the front of the field, like you guys deserve to?
Right. Goofy Tyler asks if you remember the Myrtle Beach Speedway Sim series.
Yeah.
He said he had a lot of fun in that one.
Yeah, and that was actually funny enough that he brings that up. We actually did admin cautions in there before admin cautions were a thing.
Mm-hmm.
We actually ran our own pace car. We had our own caution system, our own scoring system, the whole nine.
How did you run your own pace car?
We would have somebody out there in the Mustang.
And really?
The Mustang, yeah. And we would pull the Mustang out, and that was when they came out with the flashing lights on it. So he would actually go out there, flash the lights, going around the racetrack, especially because it was nighttime, so it was pretty cool. So, it was one of those situations where we just manufactured our own system, and we just worked around what iRacing had. Another cool thing that we did on that deal that Tyler probably remembers is we did.
He says it's Tyler LV by.
Yeah,
sure
I remember.
Yep.
I remember.
I figured you would. You got a good memory, man. You don't forget anyone who races under you.
And another cool thing that we did on there was cone restarts. I don't know whether you're familiar with cone restarts from where you're from. but it's a short track deal to where
Mm.
basically
I
the
know the
first place
concept.
man,
I've always thought that they
yeah.
should definitely implement that in all NASCAR series. I think it's a
Well,
great
we
idea.
implemented it, and
Mm-hmm.
we put what we used was we painted up a Legends car as a cone, and I was the cone car, okay, and I would
Of
come
course
out of
you
pit
were.
road, and I would stop at the front stretch, and we would give the one to go signal, and drivers would choose their lane, and it was
Mm-hmm.
some of the most fun that we had because guys were just in there and they were BSing, and it was just a good racing series. So stuff like that is just it's a ball when you can get the right people. Do I think we could ever do that in the trucks or elite? No, absolutely not. But or short track stuff, could definitely see that coming back maybe in the
Listen,
future.
I can just go down, drop down there, and kick the cone onto the track, and then
Hey, there you
folks
go.
can, we'll do it that way.
The only thing that we did have is we did have to implement a penalty system because Peterson and Cucker and those guys thought it would be fun to hit the cone car for the last race, last caution every single night, and they
Mm-hmm.
would just destroy me, just completely total me on the broadcast because this series was fully broadcast and
Right.
just completely total me. So we did have to implement a
That's
penalty
good
system on
entertainment
that
for the
end.
broadcast.
Oh, it was great
That's
entertainment.
gold.
It was great entertainment, but it was just so predictable that we couldn't have it happening on a weekly basis. You know what I mean?
But
So
the fans are like
I
they're
know,
they're
I
they're
know,
gonna watch the whole thing waiting
I know.
for it to happen.
But one thing about that was we was partnered, and the series was completely partnered with Myrtle Beach Speedway, the
Mm-hmm.
actual Speedway. So we
Yeah.
had people from the Speedway watching that. So of course it's a situation where like the fans want that fun little atmosphere, but then I got the PR guy from Myrtle Beach Speedway breathing down my neck because hey, what's going on with this cone car getting destroyed every single week? So and that was
Are
that
you
was
not
really the main
entertained?
reason. Well,
Why are you
they
getting your
weren't.
nose bent out of shape about it?
Yeah, no, they weren't as entertained on that as the fans were. That was
He's
definitely
a
an
promoter. He
interesting
should.
thing.
I gotta call him out on that. He's a promoter. He should know better. He needs to take some lessons from Humpy
Not the
Wheeler.
PR guy, not the PR guy that they had then. The PR guy that they had then he was a great guy. Don't get me wrong, but
They need to hire
he
another
was
Humpy
worried.
Wheeler to be there. Then
Well, he was
that's
worried
why.
about his job. I think that was the thing
Yeah.
that he was worried about because there was people above him that were obviously saying stuff through the grapevine,
Right.
and obviously they had to take a look at it, and he had to say, okay, like I've stuck my neck personally. He did
Mm-hmm.
for you guys. We got to tighten this ship down because I'm getting, some people breathing down my neck, which is
Fair
part of
enough.
the things with those partnerships. You gotta if you have partners, sponsors, if you have those types of deals, you got to make sure that you're taking care of the people that are helping you. And in that case, we had to make sure that we took care of him.
This is why we can't have nice things.
Exactly, and I mean it all comes back to the drivers too. That's
Mm-hmm.
it with the Elite Series and the Truck Series. That's a lot of what's happened this year is we just can't have nice things.
This has definitely been a lot of fun. I think we're hitting up on late time. It's a lot of folks' bedtimes.
Yeah.
Any last comments, thoughts, anything that you want to add before we cut this thing off?
Just a few things. Number one, our door is always open. If you guys want to come chat with myself or any of the other partners here at Podium, we're always willing to chat. Like I said, I'm always in Discord after 12, 1 o'clock in the morning, 90% of the time when it comes to every single event.
Mm-hmm.
Any of the elite or truck guys that want to step down and run with the short track series and see what I'm discussing, as far as the camaraderie and the racecraft in those series, more than welcome to do so. Just hit me up, private message, Facebook, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
We'll put you in there for a race and see what you think about that. And ultimately, we're here for the drivers. I can tell you point blank, and DJ can back me up on this. I've probably put in more hours on this Podium deal to see it be successful than I do in my real life work each and every week.
Mm-hmm.
We're always up till 1, 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, and a lot of people say that we're money hungry because of the prices that we charge, but I can tell you right now with full confidence, I've not accepted one penny. Everything that I've done here is completely
Is it
volunteer.
all right? Because I do know a little bit. Is it all right if I put that out there? Because I think that's actually good to do. So my knowledge is everyone who is a stakeholder in Podium promised to not take a dime out of Podium for the entire first year, which I think
The deal
is to your guys' credit.
is everybody who has a full-time job is under that agreement.
Mm-hmm.
Both Cisco and Pike, they work their tails off on the broadcast.
That's a different deal. Yeah, those
They work
guys.
they work
Yeah.
contract work with Pit Row TV and real life broadcasting,
Mm-hmm.
and we have always paid them rates just like you would any other broadcast team. And I can tell you right now that our rate with our broadcast team are probably some of the best, if not the best, on iRacing, because I can tell you right now the bank account takes a hit every time that light goes red.
Yeah.
But it's because they do such a great job. We want to take care of them.
Well, they do a fantastic job, and
Exactly.
I've honestly, like, I've been a part of a few leagues. I've seen other leagues broadcast and stuff like that. Those guys are well, and I've shared the booth with them on one of them.
Yep.
I've got actually the quote from Maximum Line, so I can get it right. All managing members of Podium voted not to take any distributions of members. The only pay we do is paying the broadcasters. The owners themselves don't take pay. So
Yep.
there you go. I understand. I understand it. I get it. Like, and honestly, I mean, when you think about as far as entertainment budget goes, we're paying what, $45 for,
25 races.
which is 50 hours of entertainment.
Yep.
You know,
And I mean, if you look at it too, I mean, at the end of the season, we're paying all the way back through 25th. So as long at this point, as long as you show up to the rest of the races, you're going to get $25 back.
right, you're gonna get something back, exactly.
Yeah.
Which,
I mean, it's like,
yeah,
it is what
and
it is.
and I look at it as like when I sign up for something, I commit to something, I'm in it through to the end.
Yep.
That's the commitment that I make to you guys. That's the commitment that I make to my viewers. If I ask my viewers to invest in the storyline of me going through a season, I've got a commitment to them that I'm going to see it through to the end.
Yeah. And yes, Speedy, you do get money back at the end of the year. It's championship payouts. Every series at Podium has championship payouts. Street Stock pays out 500. Car Store pays out 1,000, I believe. The Elite Series pays out 1,800, and the Truck Series pays out 1,200. And those are split between silver and gold, of course.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, we're paying at least back to 20th, in some cases 25th place. So I mean, basically, anybody who supports us for the whole year, shows up, and gets behind their computer screen and runs every single event, you're going to get money back.
Mm-hmm.
So the whole deal with some of these drivers who get mad and leave and say, well, they're just taking money from me. All you got to do is show up. All you got to do is just come, try and have fun. You're going to get money back. You're going to get at least half, if not more, back from us. We take care of the drivers. We take care of any personnel that we have working with us. Like I said, I've not accepted a dime, and I work my ass off for this because I want the drivers to be happy. I want us to have, the best competition and the best broadcasting, just like we say in our promo.
Mm-hmm.
And, we work our tail off to try and make that happen.
And I really do think that, look, it's anything when you have the first year, there are going to be growing pains. There are going to be stuff sorting out. As it continues to go forward, as you get a consistent driver roster and stuff like that, I do think that a lot of this stuff is going to sort out. And when you guys are in your fifth season, it's going to look very different from how it's looked in the first season.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool. So thank you, Kyle, very much for taking time out of your busy schedule to come chat with us. It just judging by what's in the chat, it seems like everyone seemed to really enjoy it. I personally really appreciate you taking the time out. This was good. We should definitely do this again sometime. If not with you, maybe either with you or maybe with another one of the Podium guys or something like that. But more of this kind of stuff in the future, because this is fun for me too.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's not just because I like hearing myself talk.
No. I mean, and there's so much more. I mean, that we could get into in past history and everything. I mean, we could do this for days and still wouldn't even scratch the surface of everything.
Absolutely.
Me and you both have been around.
Yeah, no, I've been on iRacing now since 2015, but I've been a NASCAR fan since I was 3. So there's all kinds of stuff to go into. But thank you very much. You have a wonderful evening. Get some much-deserved rest. Glad that we were able to do it after what was honestly probably the cleanest and most fun that I've had running Podium Elite all season. So that was good too.
Maybe it was just a good omen. Maybe we need to do this next week. I mean, I don't know.
Maybe honestly, maybe it is something with that Beast Racing team. I don't know what it is, but like ever since I hopped into that car, I've been able to run a lot cleaner. So I don't know.
Maybe it's just the
Who
logo on the
knows?
hood or something.
Who knows what it is?
Yeah.
But yeah. So thank you very much, everyone. Guys, thanks for hanging out and staying with us. If you like this video, click the like button, hit subscribe, head over to twitch.tv/John_Area_Theodore. Click the heart to give me a follow. Go over to twitch.tv/Podium eSports. Click the heart to give those guys a follow. Kyle, any shout outs or any last words that you want on there?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks to all the drivers who have supported us. Thanks to everybody who tuned in. Definitely, it's great having you guys be willing to listen to us, be willing to listen to what we're dealing with on our side, and just be willing to have a discussion. So really appreciate everything you do, John, to kind of bridge that gap and help us reach more drivers.
Absolutely. All right. Thank you, guys. Peace out.